Welcome to Stitcher's Flock. My name is Tammy, and it's been a while. I didn't intend make an absence from Flosstube right after I started Flosstube, but as some of you may be aware, I also do BookTube, and I participated in the Bookmas celebration on BookTube, which is 24 consistent days of posting. And I did not anticipate, as it was my first year on BookTube in 2023, the amount of work involved in prepping for Bookmas and filming and editing and uploading and all that good stuff. It ate a lot of time from probably the end of October when I started planning until I finished the very last video in December. And it was the last video I filmed and uploaded was the collaboration with myself on this channel, and I needed a break thereafter. I have been getting back in the swing of stitching. I will say I have stitched every day thus far this year. You're saying, Tammy, it's only day 3. Yeah, well, 2 days consistent stitching for me is a win. I stitched on the 31st too, I believe. So things are off to a better start. So I thought in today's video, I would talk about my 2024 plans, challenges I'm participating in, pieces I'm finishing on for a full, to focus on a finish. And there are new starts, and there's overly ambitious goals for myself, in addition to reading goals. So hopefully they all fit in. There's haul at the end of this video as well. And I will leave timestamps in the description. So if you're more interested in something than in other things, you can jump around. That would be fine. I appreciate all of your subscriptions. As always, my contact links are in the description box, including a link to the book club I host on the Fable app. It just started in January, so don't worry, you'll be late. It's by invitation only. That invitation is in my description in the link section. And the first book, don't happen to have it with me. Hang on, I'll go get it. Luckily, it wasn't too far away. It was just on the dining room table. First choice is Veiled in Smoke by Jocelyn Green. This is Christian historical fiction. If you're leery about the descriptor of Christian, it is. I have not finished the book. I'm chapter 3, chapter 4. The faith will be gentle. It won't be preachy in nature. And this is the first book in the Windy City Saga. It is set in Chicago, and this book takes place. It opens up just before the Great Fire in Chicago, and then it concerns the events after the Great Fire of Chicago. So if you're interested, please feel free to join us. And so, first up, let's talk about my Facebook challenges. And I'm not very active on Facebook. I never have been. I think it's part of being the older generation. It's not someplace I typically go to hang out. But I did join Bringo and WhipGo mainly as a motivating factor for myself. It will get me to stitch something every day, even if it's, only 100 stitches or something. It's at least I'm stitching every day. So first, let's talk about my Bringo board. Here it is. I do have a print copy in front of me, and 3 numbers have been called so far. I didn't check the first 2 days of the month, so I'm already behind. That's okay. So the first number called for January 2024 was number 3. The second was number 4. And today's call, which is the third, is number 9. I am behind. So on my board, block number 3 is the Virgin Mary. And this is a start for me. And it is a start you have seen before. There's been no progress since last I have shown this piece. And trying to get it so it shows up on camera here. I'm not even sure which way is which. But that's where it is currently at. I need to get at least 100 stitches in there. But first I need to determine which way is up. And it looks like I did this 1/1. I may end up pulling all of this and putting it on a different fabric. So it may not look anything like this next time you see it. But I've done that with several pieces here recently, and I would rather have to, frog a little bit to make progress going forward and not kill my eyesight in the process. So that works for me. The second pick that I missed is one of the few remaining pieces on scroll bars. I have discovered recently that I no longer enjoy stitching on scroll bars. So we'll see if that holds true for this one. There's been no progress since my whip parade on this. It's the first time I've even taken it out since whip parade, to be honest. It's not very tight on here, but that's okay. And that is Merrick by Black Swan Designs. That's where I'm at. I know I am not frogging this piece. Do not recall the fabric. I know I am stitching this 1/1. I know I am not pulling any of this out because A, I really love the way it looks, and B, it's for my husband. And he probably doesn't even remember that I have this piece in process for him. It's been so long since I've pulled it out. But I would really like to get some significant progress made on Merrick in 2024. And even if that's just finishing the bottom of the C, that would be progress for me that I would be happy with. And today's call for Bringo on my board was the Book of Ink Circles. This is also another piece on scroll bars for me. Another piece I haven't touched in a very long time. And this is where this one is at. I am all the way across, so I know it fits on the fabric, which is an issue that will come up later. So if I could get green in here done, that would be a good start. Yeah. I really love this piece. It has so much metallic in it that A, it makes my hands itch, and B, we all have our frustrations working with metallic. I am no different. I have frustrations working with metallic too. So those are my current Bringo choices. And on my Bringo board, which I'll put right back up here again, I have pieces that are currently in process. I have new starts. I have plenty of choices that should keep my interest. And while they share things in common with my WhipGo board, my Bringo board has a completely different order. So unfortunately for me, there's going to be very little, if any, board crossover. That's okay. So next up would be WhipGo 2024. Here's a copy of my board. And the first two numbers called were 9 and 22. So, hang on, I missed a piece. So spot number 9 is on my board is my Anne of Green Gables stitch along from the last part of 2023. There's been no progress since you last saw it. So here is where it is at. The border is completely in. I know it fits on the fabric. So I would like to get these two smaller blocks done in January. That would make me an incredibly happy stitcher. That would make me an incredibly happy stitcher. And if I could get more done, I would be very, very thankful. My goal for WhipGo is a minimum of 5 days stitching on each piece, which adds up to 10 days, which leaves me 20 days free. So if I do more on those pieces, that would be great. I think they don't, neither of these two pieces. Oh, no, Texas. No, I take that back. One of the WhipGo pieces appears on my Bringo board, so it might get more than that. So the second piece called for WhipGo for me was slot 22. And on that slot 22 is a piece I started when we lived in Pennsylvania and knew we were relocating to Texas. And that is the state of Texas. Here's the picture. And I will leave links to all of the patterns I mentioned whenever possible in the description box down below. And so I started this on a very large, like 18 by 26 piece of opalescent 32 count fabric, and it was 1/1, and it was much too small for the fabric, and it was much too hard to see. So I frogged all that out of the fabric. I can repurpose the fabric for something else. I restarted this piece on the 1st, and I got this far. You can see the state of Texas. The white doesn't appear quite so well due to the fabric. And I have stitched this 2/2, and this is 28 count Gossamer by Picture This Plus. And unfortunately, I'm not sure yet, but I'm pretty sure that I made a huge mistake here. And I do not have enough room on the right-hand side of the fabric for the rest of the state of Texas. So the goal is to figure out if I truly am short. And if I am short, I need to pick it out and center it this way. Because I forgot that Texas is wider than it is long. So it may look a little different. Hopefully not, but it will probably be looking a little bit different. So those are my WhipGo calls for the month of January. And No, yes, those are my whip call calls for the month of January. I am very thankful for both of those calls, actually, because I want to finish Anne so I can frame it and put it downstairs by my desk. I want to finish Texas so we can go on the walls. And it isn't a huge piece. It's just the state, and it's like 88 by 82, so it's not even, 100 stitches on either direction. So I should be able to focus and get that done. So those are my Facebook challenges. So what are my focus for finished pieces this year? I have, it looks like I have 6. One of them is a must finish, and that is my Guardian Angel, which I am stitching for a friend, and that is not the right piece. Okay, found it. Here's where it should have been. So it is focus first finished piece is Guardian Angel. You've seen this before. It's Janlin kit. Talked about it on my Instagram stories. Chart is a disaster. Unnecessary confetti stitching. So here's where you saw it last. All of that has been frogged, and I have restarted, and it looks much better. So here's the restart, and it looks much, much truer to this, which is where this piece comes from. And I talk about this in my collaboration video, which I will link down below, why I felt the need to change it. And this is definitely a focus on a finished piece because, well, the baby is due this year. And so I need to stitch. I haven't stitched on this in a couple of days. I need to get back to it. I need to put at least a good hour in every day and get a good, good progress made on a daily basis for that piece in particular. If nothing else, I have to stitch that on that piece every day. And the next focus on a finished piece is 100% for me, and I don't do that very often, although it's becoming a more common theme as this goes on, and that is I Will Always Be a Wildflower by Sam Sarah Designs. That is what the model is stitched on and looks like. And this is where it was last time you saw it. And this is where it is today. I love this piece. I love working on this piece. Everything about this piece is a joy. If I was focusing on being a monogamous stitcher right now, which has been my usual stitching mode throughout my life, I would be stitching on this exclusively until it was done. It's just a joy to work on. It's just a joy. All right. So next focus on a finish is, where is it? Pretty in Pink by Crosswing Collection. Here is what the pattern was stitched on. Here's where it was last time you saw it. There has been no progress. I have not pulled this out. I'm trying to get this stitched for our anniversary, which is in October. So I need to pick up the pace a little bit, and it's still in the exact same spot. So probably this will become the daily pull it out piece as soon as the guardian angel is stitched for the expected baby. And there should be plenty of time between the completion of that piece and our anniversary to get this finished. Again, it's not very large, so it shouldn't be that much of a problem. Next up is talk about Here Comes the Sun first. This is a Shannon Christie design. And unsurprisingly, I have changed everything about it. Here's what the model was stitched like. I think I may have done a little bit of work on this since you last saw it. So here's where it was last time I did Flosstube. And here's where it stands now. I love this piece. I love everything about this piece. The only thing I regret about this piece is that I didn't stitch it higher up on my piece of fabric. So there's going to be a lot of wastage on this one side, but I'm not picking all of that out to fix that particular error. Just not going to do it. So that, again, is not a lot of work left on that piece. That should be easy to finish in 2024, which would be a very, very good thing. I would be very happy with that. Okay, let's go get the... Okay, here's Autumn Owl. Here's what the finished piece would look like. Don't believe I have stitched on this since you last saw it. And here's where he currently stands. He's very close to a finish. This is just a matter of me sitting down in a day or two and putting in the time to finish it. And then I could cross it off my list and start the next seasonal owl. So hopefully it would be very nice if I could get all 4 seasonal owls done in 2024. Then they could sit on my fireplace mantle, and I would be a very, very happy camper. All right, and the next focus on a finished piece for 2024 is Jane Austen's Bonnet. And I have taken this one off scroll bars. Here's what it will look like. Here's what the model stitch looked like. I do not believe I have worked on this since you saw it last. I have, however, taken it off the scroll bars. Should make it easier to look. And again, I may be transferring this to a different piece of fabric because it is a very poor use of fabric. It's not very large. That is almost the entire width of the piece. And there is way too much fabric going to waste on this piece. So I am probably frogging all of that. But I would rather frog it than waste that much fabric because I have smaller pieces that go on and look good. Okay, now that the mail's been delivered and the dogs have told the mailman that that's a bad thing, the last focus on a finished piece for me is Liberty Angel. I should have finished this in 23, but, you know, life happened. Have not worked on it since you saw it last. It too was in my Bookmas video, which is linked down below. And I don't think this will fit in frame, but this is where she is currently at. The bottom is done. So So I just need to fill in the top where there's obviously missing pieces and then do the back stitching. This is another one of those pieces where it shouldn't take me long. Okay, the back stitching will take me long because I despise back stitching, but I need this piece done. There are two, if I had to say there, are a couple of top priority pieces for finishes for me this year. This is one of those top priority finishes for me this year. It really is. I want this piece done finally. I want it in my house. So those are my 2024 focus pieces. It's an ambitious list for someone who hasn't finished cross-stitching piece in decades? No, that's not true. I did finish Christmas. I have finished stuff in the last decade. I think I finished a Christmas ornament in 2022. Yeah. So it's not... I finished stitching last year too. Okay, never mind. Swap that. I did finish pieces recently. Okay. So, next up are my 2024 plans in general. When I was busy making my reading goals and checklists and all those things that go with planning BookTube, I did manage to plan for Flosstube while I was at it, and it should help me going forward. And I will fill these out as I pick up individual pieces, and I will actually, I'm not going to pull it out here. I will put the actual planner pages up here as I talk about them. So the first one is called Stitching Notes, and it's purely designed to help me remember to talk about fabric count and designers and who did what and start dates and all of that good stuff when I do a Flosstube video. And I haven't been great about it in this video, but I will be better about it going forward. I promise. So here's what that page looks like. And the next 2 pages as I print them out, it's only going to be 1 page on the screen, is the floss used page. I am notorious for converting floss away from DMC. I do not enjoy stitching with DMC. I don't get along with it. I use it when I have to, but my preference is always not to stitch with DMC. So this is my floss used page. It tells me what number it is, who the manufacturer is, if it's converted for a particular piece, and where that check mark is. I try to draw the symbol that it is on the chart, which isn't always possible because some designers just use freaky symbols that you cannot, replicate. And then next up is my stitching log. And this is just kind of, if I don't remember to write it down in my calendar, I can write it down here and it'll talk. I can, if it's in Pattern Keeper, I'll know how far along I am in a particular piece. Or if I counted stitches, I can write that down too. So, and frogging. Frogging, at least at the beginning of the year, as I pick up certain pieces, is going to happen a lot. I have a feeling. And then the last page is right here. This is just general notes on a pattern. Do not ever buy it from this designer again. Poorly charted. I fell in love with this piece. Do I need to share the pattern with someone else? All of those things can go on this page. And if I don't end up using this page for a particular piece as I stitch it, those notes, this page can then transfer to another piece in which I'm using notes frequently, or it can transfer to my reading journal because I will always need more note pages in my reading journal. That is not going to be an issue. So hopefully that layout, which may change as the year progresses, will help me keep track of things I haven't kept track of as a stitcher throughout my stitching life, because things like Flosstube didn't exist when I became a stitcher. So, of course, neither did, specialty fabrics and dyes on fabrics and all of those wonderful things. So life has changed a lot since I first started stitching. And this is just going to help me get into the swing of things, of remembering that fabric count and designers of fabric are important. So it's a Tammy thing. And I do have new starts this year planned. I do have a couple of pieces. No, it's one piece that is a complete restart and completely repurposed. So let's talk about that first. That would be the temperature quilt. Right here is the original pattern. And here is where it was last time I talked about it. I tried to stitch this temperature quilt in 2022 and 2023. And the way it is laid out makes it very, very difficult for my brain to engage in. And I was constantly frustrated with this piece. Just constantly. Okay, so I am planning to restitch this. I have frogged both pieces I initially stitched it on, because I lost one piece and it was 2022, and then I restarted for 2023. And so here's the piece of fabric. It's a gorgeous piece of fabric. I really like the way it looked stitched 1/1 on 1. And this is, I believe it's Flapper by Picture This Plus. And I am planning, I'm most likely going to use this strand of Gloriana. And it's highly variegated, which is in keeping with the pattern, which I loved so much. And there's plenty there to do this 1/1. It is in a piece of variegated floss that would work well in most other instances. But I love this one. And it is rainbow. And it looks gorgeous on this fabric. And I really love this piece. And so I'm going to stitch it 1/1, maybe 2/1. And, do the pattern, just not as a temperature chart. Because as a temperature chart, it does not work. It at least for my brain, it did not work. And I am not putting myself through that for a third year in a row. I am old enough to learn from my mistakes. I am, however, stitching a temperature piece this week, or this year. And that is right here. It is typography from the wonderful StitchinMommy here on YouTube. I have the pattern. It is, of course, buried underneath all of the other new starts over here. So let me grab it. It's on the bottom of the stack. Okay. So for this, it's obviously the third. I haven't started anything yet, but I have picked the fabric. It is Earthen by Picture This Plus. Here is the fabric. It's a nice rosy neutral. And I almost chose this for not this particular piece, but this color for a different pattern, but I thought it was just a little too pink for what the pattern was for. So I will stitch this on Sunday evenings. Or no, I will just stitch this on Sundays, and if I have it, that will keep me honest. I will at least have something every week. So those are the first 2 new starts, and most of these are now on a board for a Facebook challenge. There is nothing started on them. They are in no particular order. So first would be Tea by Nora Corbett. And this is 100% thanks to Candace, who I saw her finished piece and I was drooling. I picked a fabric out of my stash, and it is Blue Lagoon by Silk Weaver. It's a 32 count opalescent, and they should look fabulous on this. I'm very pleased about that. Had this in my stash for a very long time, the fabric at least. Pattern is new, but I love the pattern. I love how Candace stitched it up. And thank you, Candace, for enabling me. Next up is a piece that is for my husband. So I have to do a little, well, not much. And it is When I Grow Old, Guardian Angel. And it is by Merrick Designs. And here is the piece of fabric. It is 32 count Orchard by Picture This Plus. My husband's favorite color is purple. My husband loves to drive. And this should be a fun, unexpected piece for him. He doesn't know I have it. He doesn't know I'm doing it. And he won't watch this video, so he'll never find out. Good thing that he doesn't watch these videos. And the next one is also a piece inspired by my husband. It is Hungarian number 3, Hungarian folk art number 3 by Glendon Place. Sorry about the glare. There's a close-up. And I chose 18 count Harold by Picture This Plus. And it is a bluey green. And this should work very well for this pattern. And my husband has Hungarian heritage. It reminds me of the piece his grandmother stitched that we have, that I know nothing about, that was the cover for my crossover video. I thought it would be a decent companion piece. I'm trying to track down at least Hungarian folk art number 1 and number 2. I have not seen them, so I don't even know if they exist. And then next up is, what do they call this? 4th of July in Love. And it is by Carrera y Baricoro. And that's what it looks like. And I have chosen, and this is from ABC Stitch. I cannot remember the manufacturer of the fabric because they do not write it on their tag. It is 28 count Stubborn Sky Jobelin. And they will look very good on that. I'm excited to stitch this piece. It's one of those pieces I purchased when we were in Pennsylvania. And it has just been waiting, calling for me. Also on my board, it just says Celtic Lady. I have them all. So I currently pulled Spring. If it doesn't get called until summer, I may swap out Summer. And this is a piece of fabric from my stash. It is apparently linen, so it's probably 32 count. It's just a solid sky blue linen. And I have very little left of my linen stash. I don't stitch on linen very much anymore. It gets harder to see as your eyes get older and tired. So we will see how it goes. It may have to be scrubbed and go on a piece of even weave. Time will tell. And also on my board would be Lady Erin. I have had this since the pattern released, and this pattern released in the 2005. And my mother actually picked up a piece of fabric for me for this pattern, and it is dark green 28 count Jobelin. I am on the fence about using the dark green. It's in my stash because I think too much of the detail in her dress will get lost on the dark green fabric. But by the same token, her hair would really stand out. I'm on the fence. I'm going to be on the fence until this pattern is called. I currently have in its bag a 28 count opalescent Lugana in ice blue from Silk Weaver, but this one in contrast maybe too pale. So it's another one of those. It's going to have to wait until it's called for me to make a decision. And honestly, I would be fine with either choice. I will do a floss toss and decide on the day that it gets called to stitch that month or that day. We will see. And the last piece I'm going to talk about, I don't yet have a fabric chosen for, and this was enabled by Pam over at Stitching in the Land of Good Enough, or Stitch New England is her shop in Massachusetts. And I loved the way this looked when she stitched it. It's by the Blue Flower, and it is called Night Walk Down, and this is what the pattern looks like. And if I can find it, I will link Pam's video where she showed this. I love this pattern. I think it's a little too dark for my preferences, so I may change the blacks to grays, dark blues. We will see. We will see when it comes up. So that leaves my last piece of the year. And there's really not a pattern to show you. So when I was prepping for BookTube, somehow I ran across this cross-stitching website. Not somehow, I know how, because on BookTube, I'm calling it the year of Tolkien. I'm reading a lot of Tolkien in 2024, and the Lord of the Rings Stitch Your Own Adventure Sal came up. The introduction released September 1st, and the patterns release every 2 months, and the first pattern released the 1st of January. Actually, I think it released early on the 31st. I obviously did not start stitching this until mid-late December. I had to wait for fabric to arrive, and then I realized I didn't want to stitch it 1/1, so I had to wait for a new piece of fabric to arrive. I'm okay with being behind. If I don't finish it this year, it isn't the end of the universe. If I do finish it this year, I will be very proud of myself. So I am stitching this on 28 count vellum by Picture This Plus. I have started. This is the introduction. It is the upper right-hand corner. And I have chosen the summer tree without the celebratory flags. And that is the outline of the tree. I just need to fill in the middle. And so far, this has been a pure joy to stitch up. The pattern is So the pattern is a pure joy to stitch. You get to choose your elements and drop them into the piece. So like for the tree, there was a winter tree, there's a spring tree, there's the summer tree, with or without celebratory flags attached. You can choose how to stitch. The first element on the introduction is a hobbit hole, and you can choose your windows to stitch, and your doors, and your porch. It is just the perfect complement to reading Tolkien this year, and I am so excited to stitch this. I am excited when I pick this up, as it dovetails into my reading and it reinforces that experience outside of stitching. And I will link the website down below. I will link the Facebook group if I can. It's no longer available. The last one he did was a Hogwarts Stitch Your Own Adventure. And just looking at those pieces as people finish them in the group and post them, they're gorgeous. And all of the pieces that are currently underway for the Lord of the Rings are so unique and just lovely. People are choosing their own threads, even though there are suggestive threads if you're afraid of choosing your own thread. And no two pieces are looking alike. And I love that. I think this is so amazing. And it's completely free. He has a Ko-Fi account, so if you want to ship him some cash, you can, but otherwise it's completely free. It's just a time investment for you, and it is lovely. He does, however, warn you that this is not a stitch your own adventure for new cross-stitchers. So if you are a beginning cross-stitcher, I do not recommend you start with Lord of the Rings Stitch Your Own Adventure. You will probably be very frustrated. If you are very brave and you are very willing to ask for help, then please jump right in. So, those are my plans. I feel like I've been talking for a long time. So, let's talk about haul. You've seen some of the haul already. I didn't make a big deal out of it. I have purchased some fabric here and there. I have purchased like the piece of fabric for The Lord of the Rings is new. The fabric for typography is new. I have a smaller piece of vellum that I originally was going to stitch 1/1. It too is new. A lot of that new fabric is old fabric in a different size, for lack of a better description. So there is, however, new floss. Some of it is experimental. Some of it is trying to figure out what works best for a particular piece, and some of it is specifically related to projects I need to finish this year. So as you know, I've been stitching Liberty Angel forever. There is no call for metallic. However, that piece needs a little pop. And I don't think that little pop is going to be, a black outline. The black outlining may work in some places, but in other places it needs to sparkle. So in that regard, I picked up a roll of DMC Diamante it's a dark silver, to try its closest to black as I drop things on the floor. And it may or may not work. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. I had to get this one from Amazon. And it is called Variegated Gold. And it is by Superior Threads. And it is made in Japan. And it still has its protective film on it. So it's going to be a little glary. And I apologize. See if I can get it to focus. There you go. And it is a very variegated gold tone metallic. I don't know anything about this thread company. I don't know what it's like to stitch with. I don't know if it's horrible. I do have buried in my guest room somewhere some Kreinik I could use at a last measure. Here, I just took the plastic off. Oh, that's even worse. But that should work for the Liberty Angel. And if it doesn't, I will find something else that does. I did pick up, and I know this is horrible to work with, a DMC light silver metallic. This is last choice, last resort. So we will see. And for Guardian Angel, the one I'm stitching for the baby, I do not like the way the wings are charted. I think it is ridiculous. There is unnecessary confetti, and you can't even tell the difference between the threads. It's just confetti for the sake of confetti. So I picked up a 330 yard, which is far in excess of what I need. Skein of Sulky, and it is blendables, and I want to say, yep, it doesn't have a color, but it's in the same vein as what they have the wings in for confetti, but it's just one strand. I will take one strand over confetti every day of the week. Don't even doubt that. So that will work out perfectly. And these, I believe, are all for the Lord of the Rings stitch along. I'm going to use Water Lilies Black Hills for all the bordering. It's just got a nice, subtle, variegated. It's dark grays and some coppery rose and rosy gold, light grays. So that's a good choice. And this is a fabric or floss I have never used before. It is a Valdani, and it is in the color of Water Reflections. And it is a bluey green color. So I'm sure that will appear somewhere on the Lord of the Rings stitch along. Of that, I am sure. If not, no, I've already changed that color. Never mind. So the last two, I'm not going to be surprised here if they are the exact same color. They are. There is a lot of potential browns in the Lord of the Rings stitch along. I have a lot of brown and other pieces that need to be stitched as well. So I picked up unintentionally, I picked up two of the same color. It's a Sulky's blendable, and it is, I believe, I want to say it's milk chocolate. I don't like that they don't put the color on these, but here you go. There's the color. And here's the smaller one. It's the exact same color. So those are the floss and fabric pickups in haul. Really didn't have any new haul patterns other than typography from StitchinMommy, which I'm looking forward to stitching. So that's the whole portion of the video. If all goes according to plan, and it should, it's the beginning of January, I will be back next Tuesday with a regular update. I look forward to your comments down below. I hope the frog stays in his swamp, and I will see you here next time at the protagonist or at Stitcher's Vlog.